What stands before you is your greatest reflection. All that memory is a self-reflection of how consciousness is engaging its moments of experience in a manner where it's not a thing engaging a thing, it is a thing in its stillness and silence becoming aware of all movement and noise. And in a sense, it's the thing being made aware of through no thing, which is nothing, and the clarity of emptiness, as we find in the elegance of the Zen Master's empty cup. And so in an instant you can know yourself to be beyond space and time. But it is also about being aware of your life and seeing what is real to you, and based on your direct experience, seeking a flow of revelation, which is also it's as if you are growing as natural as that tree, as that flower, as that plant sprouting from the dirt of a dark past, the dirt of a dirty past. It is you who must see the cleansing begins in the allowance to be an untouched of existential observance through novelty. What that means is every being is right now responding to a consideration of form. They have a certain conscious response, which is the ability of language and just what you know so far and what your knowledge is. But at the same time, there is a sense of you which is life, looking at life. And this cannot be defined because it is what is keeping the unknown aspect of your reality. So you are finding the limitations of man, and that is a great discovery. We are finding the edge of the limitation of the apparatus. We are right there, being the construction of the bridge from form into formless awareness, and they are simultaneously here. The cosmos is weaved with strings that have gone through the needle's eye, which is every new experience in this world. Do not hinder yourself with heavy ideology just because that ideology could be real to you. Become efficient in the manner that you're not an individual that is trying to survive in the world. You are the world that is inspiring the individual. You're not here to try to build a portfolio of past mistakes. You are here to give all that you are to all that you are. And as you see, the moment is in a very uncommon but chaotically beautiful manner, trusting life in a way that life could never expect man to trust it after how the world was treating man. You will see a change. You will see a shift. You will see an orientation. You will feel alone at first, but then you will begin to see the intelligence does not create the self-talk that even suggests that man could ever get lost in the cave. Many mystics and yogis have gone into caves, have gone into the depths of their solitude, the depths of their stillness and silence, and the depths of even failure. And they have seen that it is not about winning, it is not about success, it is not about showing success to others, but it's about the nature of being that is aware of the life it is. And this is of a direct experiential thing. So it does not matter what you have accumulated. It does not matter what kind of a thing collection you have made. It matters how aware you are to why you have made those things, why you are uniquely the way you are. You must become your immediate source of inspiration to know life. You are knowing life through yourself. Regardless whether God is in your eye or a unified field theory is in your eye, you must begin to see that life is here and every moment is a new beginning. What that means is reality is telling you how it is. But in you looking at how reality is saying what it is, you will begin to see how you are aware of the things you are aware of. How the information that has come to you is as unique as how a certain butterfly landed on your forehead. It is as unique as how one person draws in a certain way, no other person can even find the fingertips to do so. You will become very fascinated by taking a sense of approach that is different. Many people are trying to take a thinker approach, and that's good if you want to sit on a rock and just do nothing. But if you want to be aware of the thinker, you gotta explore what reality means for you. What that means is, I cannot know exactly right now where you are sitting or where you're hearing my talk, but you are in some sense of a moment which is real. By being aware of this realness, you will begin to see that it is your experience that is giving you the trust of the good. But it is also your experience that is giving the trust of the bad. And what that means is, every moment you thought it was that person's fault, it was that person's fault, it's those people's fault, it was not externality's fault. It was the awareness to who was standing in the mirror of life, who is standing in this mirror of being aware of form. What that means is, man will find such great unity and direction in his community, just like how a drop just found the river. You know, the river, the profound, deep rivers of life that are keeping abstraction alive. Once you find these, you begin to see that man will no longer condemn man. We will look at human beings and we will be like, don't just say, do whatever you want to do and communicate as much and be as free. For in the freedom of man, in the dissolution of a domination that was never here, the world will thrive. For if you are a part of this world, what are you living for aside from the world that you are constantly seeing how you're a part of? Even separation, even duality is the greatest suggestion of unity. What that means is, you would find the love that even allowed existence to flip like the coin that was night and day, never disconnected. The change is not in your hand. The moment is all that is held. And in your simple knowing of this, you do not have to try. You do not have to even make a to-do list. You do not have to respond in a battlefield. You have stepped out of the battlefield. You have stepped out of all wars of ideology, conceptualization, any communication that you might have disliked or liked. You're stepping out of this battlefield. You're walking beyond all wrong actions and all good actions which you have thought yourself to be involved in. You're moving past your guilt, and the battle is going on. The guilt has not been destroyed. The war is going on. It is you who is pilgrimaging into a novel knowing that is transcendent, that is existentially allowing. That is the work of man, that is this life that needs to be done. In causality, you will begin to find the freedom that you are not just one effect. You are not just all effects happening through the original awareness of cause, which is the grace and the greatest teacher of what the symbol and the word oneness has come to show man. Man has gotten rid of slavery externally, or is trying to, and he will do it, of course, very soon. We will wake up and we will see that love was the guide. Love was the teacher. Even the smartest man in the world will know love is the teacher. Because love is the acceptance of your individuality and your separation, and not you standing behind the door of fear wondering why you can't see what's outside. You are your own enlightenment. And the Guru's task was to give you such an existential mirror that you did not even see a Guru. You began to see that every sense of idea, every sense of knowing has has come from an understanding of yourself. But as man has thought and ran with the thinker to find the sense of self, he has found that it is only kept in the consideration of other. But just like how a word is a sound that could be meaningless to another person in another language, we would see that sound has multiple interpretations. Truth is a multidimensional knowing of what is here through nothing. It is what the sages and the Vedic seers said, to be in the world but not of it. Your realization is seeing that the real eyes are everywhere. It's not that these two physical things are your eyes. It is that your moment of being is even beyond that which can contemplate the vision. The greatest treasure is not something that could be found in a Pirates of the Caribbean kind of show, or something that can be given with a map. You must see that all maps, again, are mirrors. And the idea of you could be a trap. But freedom required a free being. And if being was always free, was despair an interpretation of existential action that never had to be here? Freedom is how the fallen knew they never fell. It's how you realize it's not the idea given in front of you. It is your awareness to the imagery that simultaneously is there when you're looking at the idea, and you are seeing the nature of how abstraction works. Explore your subtler planes of abstraction. Do not let someone tell you you're daydreaming. Don't let teachers tell you that you shouldn't daydream or whatever. Explore your mind, explore your body. We see a lot of great athletes tell us, begin moving your body. As you move your body, that movement will guide your energy, in a sense. So similarly, man also needs to move into recognizing what is this mind that is aware of a body. And so this is a level of your own self-experience. What that means is, it's not about something you have to do which you can't fit in your schedule. It's about taking yourself to an attention that is aware of your breath, not saying much, not saying anything, but just being here. And as you breathe, it's like that moment you are realizing, and this is of course recommended, you go do this in nature, go alone. Go explore you in this universe. And you see, as you are still and silent and just being, and just aware of your breath, you are seeing the same movement of breath is similar to the movement of thought. What that means is we are seeing an awareness that is aware beyond the limitations of the system it thought it had to be in. So we are moving beyond a systematic approach in regards to being part of a greater and more of a multidimensional kind of experiential, simultaneous experience kind of reality. What that means is, how long does man want to think he's good and then try to have bad experiences kind of attract him, and how long does he want to think he's bad and have good experiences attract him? We are not slaves to an idea that is never finding itself because the night and day seem to be different worlds. This is ridiculous. We must find that there should be no ridicule. Immediately let it fly off. Let it as if be dust on your shoulder and you've just pushed off dust. Dust is not it's not the worst experience. It's not the end of the world. It's not the apocalypse. It's just dust on your shoulder. But now we're saying, instead of that dust, visualize stardust. And you begin to see, wow, the cosmos is so close, and its simplicity it is known. In its complexity it is expressed. What that means is, if you as a human experience and just as a curious physical being with all this knowledge that humanity has developed so far, imagine that was all just one book you held in your hand. You would see that, assume I didn't know anything, assume I was just manifest, I just came into this reality just as a new view. I would begin to notice that there is a design and shape to nature, to form, before I have a name for these things. So my interaction with reality is giving a sense of a shaping to ideology. But now my reality is being one where it is the human engagement in the past history of man, which was his story, that we begin to see how our world is suggested and implied. When they tell you to be normal, you look at what normal is and you see insanity. It is not normal. Normal is not normal nowadays. And that needs to change, because the change is in the ability to move beyond the definition. Once we choose definitions, we have condemned in ways we cannot understand. But it is not that it is definition that is the problem. It is self-awareness to what is being defined. So when someone comes and says, love, are you seeing an image of a heart face on your iPhone Messenger, or are you seeing what every human being in its clearest and most sincere and honest understanding realizes, that in the togetherness of man's developing intelligence, there lies the greater visions of man blooming. We are not just taking care of our physical technologies, we have always taken care of the technologies of our most fundamental sustenance in this reality of form. This plane of existence is never new to the pilot of consciousness, for he is the navigation of the plane of existence. You are movement. In my, let's say, thought experience at that moment, in my subtler planes of abstraction and just consideration of thought, I saw that when I stop seeking anything, what is it that seeks me? And so I took myself, not to the platform of honesty, but I took myself to an emptiness, as if I had just realized I was a man with so many stickers and labels on his face, and I just ripped these apart. And of course there was pain. There was a pain of why the change, why this movement, but something in me shook me. And it was as if an earthquake doesn't care where man is living. It still says what it has to say. And so I was broken to be found in the emptiness that had guided me all the way. What that means is I never saw a face to my guides, but in my emptiness, in my lack of having to constantly project certain ideology in my mind, I began to see the stars shining very brightly. In other words, our experience of causality is having a layer of just interpretation. It is having a layer of our own sense of consideration of it, but there's more than just how we think. So it is not that we should be a thinker. We are no longer thinkers. We have broken out, just like how a cocoon has stepped out, just like how a caterpillar has stepped out of a cocoon. We begin to see that we are aware of thought, just like how we are aware of that tree. And this sense of intelligence, now working with your intelligence with this idea, is much more healthier. Because the thinker also is constantly individualized to how you are feeling. You're a temporal being. You think your thoughts do not have an eternal hue. But your thoughts are actually bodies which are complacent to how the experience of you changes from the grosser elements, which are, let us say, the subtler elements, which are more, physical, and then we see the different spectrum from gross to subtle, and how it is just like how, let us say, a painter gets his paintbrush and just, strikes the canvas. he begins to see that some parts of that paint are lighter and some parts of it is darker in regards to the balance of it. And of course, we can be try to be very scientific about it in regards to, I'm of course saying this in a very playful way, in regards to saying that of course the paint is darker this way, this place because of here, but when you look at what is drawn in your experience, you are the choice of the intensity of that experience. You are choosing the quality of how you receive life. And it is not something that is even a conscious choice. It is a knowing. And the being who trusted his intuition would also realize that he was trusting more of the world around him, beyond the segmentation, beyond the veil that seems to have blinded man from his true nature. A very realized being named Ramana Maharshi he said meditation is your true nature. In other words, you're not trying to respond. You're not trying to do meditation to have a better life. You're trying, in regards to have a better, let's say, more stress-free life. You know, you're trying to do meditation, not because it's even called meditation, because you want to explore the nature of your experience in the space-time continuum. You are not putting the fantasy and sci-fi out of your reach. You're taking your vision as the vastness of all that can be seen. And there's an exploration here. There's the treasure revealers becoming into nothing. What that means is, if they were to ask what Mr. Within's experience of nothingness was, it was very interesting. It was as if I had found my home, but there was a reunion going on, and I had not been aware of this reunion. And so in emptiness, it was as if consciousness never needed to be free. It was what it was, no longer just all that it can be. And I felt as if doors were opened, and I was again a visitor in my own home. I have felt like a visitor in my own home for a while, and I just was wondering how that idea or psychology came into place. And I realized it was through my not knowing that I also knew. What that means is that moment when some random friend of yours is telling you, hey man, don't do something, just intuitively out of nowhere he's popped out, you would see he is saying it for a reason. Life is communicating things to you for a reason. Even the worst, the curses are there showing you why they're there. Be aware of the self-reflective nature of how manifestation is manifest for you. And be also aware of how it's manifest beyond the you. You would see that, and I'm sure many mature people can realize, there is silent knowing. There are knowings that you gain from going through certain experiences that you will never be able to speak about, because you cannot capture an experience completely in words. You can poetically try to touch the stars, as many communicators of sacred hymns have done before in their beautiful sacred poetry. Poetry, going and diving into the deepest questions of life that can be known to a human being. There's a reason that intuitive moment and that friend has spontaneously shown up to tell you not to do something. It is because there is an experience they have. It is because they are seeing something that is a blind spot to you, and you are not accepting that you're a blind man. What that means is those beings who really see that they don't know, they begin gaining an access to a freedom of knowing that is not even in thought. It is a compassionate, sincere feeling that what I am knows what to be, as it has always been. Do not create a world that cannot belong to the whole world. Guide it with the beauty of what you're here to communicate as a being. See your communication as existential communication. The moment you were born and there was an awareness, the self, of the moment you recognized yourself in the mirror, you have been existential communication. Now be aware of this existential communication, and you shall see there's no other way but to reach novelty. So you have acknowledged all your ideas that are normal, and you've looked at why they're normal, and you're seeing that every individual thing is kept individual by its collective view. So what that means is, if I'm calling that pigeon in front of me right now on the grass a pigeon, it's because I am individualizing it, and I'm calling first a world. I'm creating space before there needs to be space. And what that means is that's where the illusion happens. When we are not mindful that it is in our nothing that we all have something in common. That we will experience and are an experience that is beyond thing. It is no thing. It is really not a thing. But it is also not just it's not just also the limited staircase between how we have an objective reality and a subjective reality. Actually, both of these are originating for a profound sense of a flow which cannot be linearized. So you must begin as a human being compassionate, as the Buddha has said, being mindful, as many Zen masters have said, many gurus and yogis have said, because you are adjusting your existential sensitivity in receiving your life in more profounder ways. So just like how in that game, I saw many people get updates on, on whatever, their machinery in the game, I would see you update this life through self-awareness and an innate action that is natural. And what else could be wrong when you realize your voice has always been nature's voice, the nature of the cosmos. Do not be worried. Everybody has fear. Fear is something that is present for many. But you must realize that you don't handle fear by trying to get tough and finding the biggest weapon. You handle fear by seeing what you are afraid of. So you must have this sincerity and honesty to just immediately go through and face the music. And you know why we like to face the music? Because we're a generation who creates music. So we will always face our worst action because we are humble beings. What that means is the mind may choose to make itself a criminal or a victim, but within you, the life intelligence it is of a collective knowing. It is beyond the spectrum of judgment. What that means is that pigeon was never a pigeon. It was a pigeon in how I perceived the value and gave the meanings and extracted and juiced that image. That apple that could be a mistake or an inspiration. When you begin to look at the nature of how looking is for you, just being observant and just concentrating and focusing, there's a very profound ability that finds you because you are no longer external. You have gone within, and so you are found everywhere. So as they poetically says, there's divine reunion in regards to how the individual will has always been part of the divine will, in the same way that all those drops that were in the river were all part of the ocean. Freedom is the profundity of how much concentration can focus to see the edge of truth was the letting go of truth, and to see that it's all the experience of now. I would like to share a very interesting quote with you. The quote is one of Ramana Maharshi's quotes, and he says, "The degree of freedom from unwanted thoughts and the degree of concentration on a single thought are the measures to gauge spiritual progress." So I want to kind of like simplify this, because there's so many words here that could take it away from what this being perhaps may have implied. The degree of freedom from unwanted thoughts. So unwanted thoughts are things in reality where you don't want to confront, you don't want it, you don't want to be here, you don't want to be there, you know, be whatever, right? And the degree of concentration on a single thought, you know. So imagine just seeing your problem and the whole world it's problematic in, or just seeing only where the design or the first immediate idea of your problem without even having it be formed too much, you know. And he says, are the measures to gauge spiritual progress. You must observe how there is a sense of concentration and focus, which is an amount of focus that you're looking at the unwanted thoughts. And you must also see that because you are a being who has an ability to be beyond your focus, how do I say it? It's like the same attention that is keeping the unwanted thought is also the same attention that can change in an instant of how your attention was on the first unwanted thought. So in simplicity, many complex systems are relevant. But the simplicity must not be judged, because then you will be trapped in your complexity. So what that means is the hourglass or let me say it like this, get rid of the hourglass. If you don't acknowledge the simple, natural truth, things that you intuitively, innately know as how you are being alive, you will begin to see you are keeping yourself in a complex system of a thought, because it's really scary to know what to do as a thinker when you can't find the thinker. What that really means is that we are giving that abstraction form. But it is abstract, and all abstraction is being received through how all that is being received in the moment is innately just here. So it's as if it's very simple how we can see the architecture of that skyline, you know, of that skyscraper, because we are aware that there are foundations there. And just like how we have reality here with a certain architecture. In other words, you look around wherever you are, whatever space and time you're in, you're just looking at the architecture of how that's an experience for you. It's beginning from a foundation that is so simple, it is beyond the language and the intensity that words and a group of words can suggest. We must trust ourselves so that we are not seeking a justification externally, because the nature of the external reality is one of change. We are temporal beings. So it's not that you're trying to change a temporal world, you are becoming aware of that which is aware of the temporal world. And the observer is not the object of observance. What that means is me being aware of that pigeon, which is still right there, is that I am not that pigeon, right? That is simple experimentation. So what we observe, we innately are not. Do you see? But this is, of course, on a very subtle level of considering the origin of existential awareness. You know, we got to take things in context, or we won't really understand what we're talking about. I hope this talk has served you. I find that grace is always benevolently allowing itself to, in a sense, be graceful. So, trust life. You shall see life trust you. Much blessings and rest.